The moon bled across the sky, painting the windows of the abandoned old mansion red. Detective Ricardo felt a shiver, despite the heat of the Mexican night. He knew he was in danger, but what drew him to that cursed place was stronger than fear. A scream echoed among the trees, a woman's scream, laden with such profound despair that it froze Ricardo's blood. It was Isabella's voice, the witch he loved, and she was in trouble. Would he be able to save her before the portal to the other world closed forever? Time was running out, and with it, hope. The moon, red as a bull's blood, peeked through the twisted trees surrounding the mansion. Ricardo, the detective with tired eyes and a brave heart, felt fear gnawing at his insides like a hungry snake. Isabella's scream, the sharp echo of unbearable suffering, still vibrated in his ears. He knew that sound, that desperate cry from the depths of despair. It was the voice of the woman he loved, the woman who made him believe in magic, in worlds beyond our comprehension, in a love that defied even death. He had to reach her. The air was heavy, humid with an ancestral fear, carrying a strange smell, a mixture of damp earth and something metallic, like blood. Ricardo advanced, the shadows slithering like living beings around him. Each step was a challenge, each tree a monster waiting to grab him. He clutched the crucifix he carried in his pocket, an amulet as ineffective as a stone against these strange forces, but which gave him a little comfort, a crumb of hope amidst that darkness. The mansion was a labyrinth of dark, long corridors, a fortress haunted by whispers and groans. Ricardo moved cautiously, every sense on high alert. He heard the sound of his own footsteps echoing in the deafening silence, the sinister whisper of the wind that seemed to murmur dark secrets in his ears. Suddenly, a greenish glow cut through the darkness, a sinister light pulsing like a monstrous heart. It was the portal, he knew, the entrance to the other world, Isabella's world, the place of shadows and magic. And then he saw her. Isabella was cornered in a corner of the mansion's main room, her supernatural beauty still visible even under the terror that filled her eyes. She was surrounded by 3 tall, dark figures, beings with bright red eyes that radiated a sinister and icy aura. They were the specters, creatures of darkness that guarded the entrance to the other world, beings that lived in absolute darkness and fed on the suffering of others. Ricardo felt a knot in his throat. The pain of seeing her in danger was worse than anything he had ever faced. Isabella fought with magic. Small spheres of blue and white light flew towards the specters, but they defended themselves easily, their gestures quick and precise. The specters laughed, a thunderous and horrible sound, a laughter that echoed in that cursed room, a sound capable of freezing the blood in one's veins. Ricardo needed to act fast. Time was running out. The portal flickered, about to close forever. It was a race against time, a race against darkness. Ricardo pulled out his weapon, not a simple revolver, but a special weapon forged with silver and iron, capable of injuring supernatural creatures. It was a gift from an old friend, a monster hunter, who knew of his journey. He knew that the silver bullet would be his only hope in that moment of despair, but he also knew that the weapon alone would not be enough. He would need strategy, cunning, and all the courage he could muster. The specters advanced. Isabella, exhausted, fell to her knees. Ricardo took a deep breath. His soul trembled, but his eyes shone with determination. He was about to enter the battle of his life, a battle for love, for hope, and for his own survival in a world where the line between reality and the supernatural was as thin as a spider's thread, ready to break at any moment. He prepared to face the horror and fight for the woman he loved, even if it meant plunging headlong into the abyss. The fight was just beginning. Ricardo aimed, the silver of the weapon cold in his trembling hand. A precise shot hit one of the specters, making it scream in an unknown tongue, a sound of pure hatred and agony. The creature disintegrated into black dust that spread across the floor, like a curse being undone. The other 2 specters, however, attacked with fury, their black claws trying to reach Isabella, who was exhausted, her powers dwindling. Ricardo fired again, hitting the second specter, but it, despite the wound, continued to advance, its red eyes burning with rage. Ricardo knew he couldn't win with just shots. He needed to use his intelligence, the same that led him to solve so many complex cases. He observed the environment carefully, his mind working at full speed. He noticed a large bronze candelabra, an old and heavy artifact fixed to the wall next to the portal. A daring idea arose in his mind, a risky plan that could be his salvation or his ruin. He attracted the attention of the last specter, making it come towards him with a furious lunge. At the last moment, Ricardo dodged the blow with surprising agility, and with a precise kick, knocked down the candelabra, making it fall towards the specter, which, taken by surprise, could not dodge. The crash was deafening. The candelabra shattered, and the specter, struck by the pieces of bronze and metal, disintegrated into dust, disappearing like smoke in the air. The portal, however, was about to close. An intense and dazzling glow emanated from it, as if an invisible force were sealing it. Isabella, weakened, crawled towards Ricardo, her eyes full of tears. He reached her, his fingers touching her pale and cold skin. The touch was a shock, an electric current that ran through his body, a discharge of magical energy. But a new danger was approaching. From inside the mansion, a sibilant voice echoed, a velvety and menacing sound that froze Ricardo's blood. It was a different voice, not that of the specters. A powerful voice, and very, very old. Ricardo felt a shiver run down his spine. This was a much older, much more dangerous force than any specter. A force he didn't understand, and which filled him with a deep, primitive terror. Isabella huddled in Ricardo's arms, trembling with fear. She whispered something in his ear, words in an ancient language he couldn't understand, but which sounded like a warning of imminent danger. The voice echoed again, closer this time, laden with a freezing hatred which seemed to penetrate his bones. It was an immeasurable power, the power of the shadow that ruled that place. Ricardo looked at Isabella and saw pure terror in her eyes. The portal glowed one last time, and then closed with a bang that made the mansion tremble. They were trapped. The fight, far from being over, was just beginning. The real threat was yet to come, and it was far greater than both could imagine. True terror approached, hidden in the shadows of that cursed mansion. The battle for survival and love would begin now, in an environment where danger lurked in every corner, in every shadow, in every whisper of the wind. The moon bled across the sky, an intense red that painted the walls of the old mansion in a hellish hue. Ricardo felt cold sweat running down his temples, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Isabella's scream, a sharp echo of despair, still haunted him. He had found her, cornered by 3 red-eyed specters, creatures of darkness that seemed to radiate a chilling cold, capable of freezing the soul. Isabella, the witch of supernatural beauty, fought with all her might, spheres of blue and white light clashing against the shadowy creatures. But she was weak, exhausted, her powers dwindling with each passing moment. Ricardo did not hesitate. He drew his weapon, forged with silver and iron, a gift from an old friend, a monster hunter. The silver gleamed in the light of the bloody moon, promising a faint hope in that deep darkness. The shots echoed through the mansion, the sharp sound of the bullets breaking the terrifying silence. One of the specters fell into black dust, but the other 2 attacked with more fury, their black claws approaching Isabella, who fell to her knees, powerless to defend herself. Time slipped away like sand in an hourglass. The portal to the other world, a circle of greenish light, flickered, about to close. It was a race against death, against darkness, against time. Ricardo needed to think fast. He couldn't win with just shots. His eyes scanned the room, analyzing every detail. And then he saw the candelabra, a large bronze object fixed to the wall next to the portal. A risky, dangerous idea, but perhaps his only chance, arose in his mind. He attracted the attention of the remaining specter, making it approach, and with incredible agility, he disengaged from the attack with a precise movement. A powerful kick, and the candelabra fell with a crash, crushing the specter under the weight of the bronze. The portal, however, began to close, an intense glow emanating from its interior, as if an invisible force were sealing it forever. Isabella, exhausted, crawled towards Ricardo, her eyes full of deep terror. He reached her, his fingers touching her cold skin, feeling the magical energy flow between them. It was a touch that conveyed supernatural power, a connection that crossed worlds. But the relief was short-lived. A new terror approached. From inside the mansion, a velvety and menacing voice echoed, a sibilant sound that froze Ricardo's blood. It was a different voice, older, more powerful, much more dangerous than the specters. A shadowy, frightening presence that filled him with primordial fear. Isabella huddled in Ricardo's arms, trembling, her eyes full of deep dread. She whispered ancient words in a language he didn't understand, but which sounded like a warning. The sibilant voice echoed again, closer, laden with a glacial hatred that seemed to penetrate to the marrow of his bones. It was the power of darkness, an unfathomable and terrifying power. The portal glowed one last time, a dazzling glow, and closed with a bang that shook the mansion to its foundations. Ricardo and Isabella were trapped, imprisoned in that cursed place, and the real threat, much greater than any spectre, was approaching, hidden in the shadows. The fight for survival, for hope, and for love was only just beginning. True terror, an unimaginable terror, lurked in every corner, in every whisper of that cursed mansion, and Ricardo and Isabella were at its heart. The voice, cold as the ice of the abyss, whispered, "You cannot escape. I have been expecting you." A raucous and guttural laughter echoed through the mansion, a laughter that promised endless suffering and pain. From the darkness, a tall and imposing figure emerged, shrouded in dark shadows, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent light. A light that was not of this world. It was a being of immeasurable power, an entity of pure darkness that emanated an ancient and terrifying power. The entity extended its hand, and a black, viscous energy spread through the room, engulfing Ricardo and Isabella. Ricardo felt fear transform into pure horror. He knew that this fight would be different, much more terrifying, and that their survival was only a minimal possibility, a thin thread that could break at any moment. The true battle for survival and love began now, against an enemy that was far beyond his comprehension, an enemy capable of destroying everything they loved, an enemy from a place beyond death itself. The shadow swallowed them, and darkness hovered over them, leaving in the air the promise of unimaginable horror.